Happy Thursday and welcome to our stream. Today we are looking at lesson 6. We are starting a whole new lesson, a whole new set of adventures. And so, this time, what is our situation? Well, you're looking for a new apartment. Shoop, shoop, shoop. And then you find one that looks pretty good. And so you and your friend Bob go on a trip to this new apartment, and the landlord takes you to take a look at it. And the landlord shows you around the place. Oh, look over here, look over there. And then he says, the best part is the view. And you look out the window and, oh, wow. There's an old man with his shirt off going, hello, yoo-hoo. Oh, Jesus. That's not okay. But this time, you have a good, positive personality. We're in our first conversation. In this personality, you're feeling pretty good about it, and you think it's okay. Ooh, people are so friendly. And then things move forward, and you start looking at the apartment, and your friend Bob says, hey, hold your horses. Slow down a little bit. Don't decide right away. You have to look at the apartment and think it out. Think about it. So you look around and Bob shows you all these problems with the apartment, but you're looking on the bright side all the time, right? And maybe you're too positive. And so you just ignore all these bad things and think they're good things. There's a hole in the wall. Oh, there's airflow. That's great. Oh my gosh, there's a cockroach riding a rat. Oh. And you say, wow, it's full of life. It's so wonderful here. So you're a little bit positive to a fault, right? Maybe too positive. So that's our lesson today. Sometimes it's usually good to be optimistic and look on the bright side of things. But sometimes you can overdo it, right? You go too far and you end up ignoring some problems. Sometimes it's okay to say, no, this is not okay. You don't always have to be so positive, okay? So in this conversation, we saw all the things that might happen if you're too positive and you ignore the problem. And through this lesson, we learned a few different things. We learned about the word while and as, meaning things happening at the same time. We learned about the word during, meaning we have this time and something happens in that time. And then we learned about the words upon and on. And then we talked about things happening one after the other. We've talked about once, as soon as, the moment, the second. Okay? And then finally, we had our big dialogue, our story with some silly things happening, but some useful language to talk about the inside of an apartment, right? The design, the decoration, and stuff like that. So let's just get right into our homework and get started. So this is lesson 6, conversation 1, section 2. And this section is focusing on the words while, as, and during. Now in spoken English, we usually would use the words while and during. The word as might be a little bit less common. So in these answers, I mostly used while instead of as. But while and as are basically the same thing, so you could use both. So our first sentence is, 当你在浪费时间，有人正在为梦想而努力. So you don't want to be lazy and just waste time, right? So the word waste time is in here, and we're going to learn a little bit more about wasting time and how to use that in future lessons. So in English, I would write this as, while you're wasting time, people are working hard for their dreams. Okay, that's more of a direct translation. And we can change this around to say it a few different ways. You could say, while you're wasting time, people are working hard to achieve their goals. So these are two words that go together. Achieve goals. So achieve their goals is a common phrase that is basically the same meaning as the Chinese phrase. You could also say, while you're wasting time, people are out there chasing their dreams. So achieve their goals, chasing their dreams. This is another common phrase when talking about someone trying to do what they want to do. Okay? So these are two ways to say the same idea. Dreams and goals are both very similar. They're what you want to do, what you're hoping to do. And so you could say achieve goals, chase dreams. Okay? And like the first example I gave, working hard for their dreams. So you can say working hard, and you work hard for something. So we say working hard for your dreams. Okay? Instead of saying working hard, you could use other words too. You could say fighting for your dreams. That's a good one too. And striving for your dreams. Now, working hard, fighting, and striving, they're slightly different, but in day-to-day life, it means kind of the same thing. Working hard means you're working and doing it really hard. Go, 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 I can do it. Fighting for your dreams means maybe there are difficult things you're dealing with and you have to fight those difficult things. Striving for your dreams, striving is like reaching. Maybe your dreams are far away and you're reaching to try to get it. Now, in reality, in speaking, they mean the same thing. Working hard, fighting for, striving for. But there's slight differences between them because of what the words mean by themselves. But you can use all three sayings. Now, I also saw the phrase making efforts for their dreams. It makes sense, but it's not a very common phrase in English. People do say make efforts for something, but it's a little bit more formal, a little bit less common than just working hard, fighting for, striving for, chasing dreams, achieving goals, stuff like that. Okay? Oh, the first part was while you're wasting time. Wasting has ing because you're continuing to do it. And so we're talking about something continuing to happen and someone else doing something. Wasting time, working hard. Okay? So they're both things that are happening and continuing to happen. And our second sentence is 整场会议老板都板着一张脸. And now, this might be a surprise to you, but the English phrase for this is actually pretty close to the Chinese. You don't need to change it as much as you might think so. So in English, I would write this as, during the meeting, the boss was making a face. So making a face. So making a face, what does that mean? So making a face, if you just say it like this, making a face, you're not saying what kind of face, but people will understand what you mean. Making a face is probably like, it sounds like he's not happy. So you can just say, he was making a face. Okay? You could be more specific and add an adjective. What kind of face? He was making an angry face. Or he was making a stern face. Angry, everybody knows what angry means, but stern means maybe like this. It doesn't always mean angry, but it means someone's very serious. And yeah, they're not playing around, they're not happy, they're very, very serious. Stern, okay? So for this, it sounds like the boss is not happy. So we want to say making a face, making an angry face, or making a stern face. Because maybe he's not happy with what's happening at the meeting or what people are saying. Now, some of you use other words, other different kinds of faces, but the meaning is slightly different. Some of you said the boss had a long face. A long face means that someone is sad. So that's a different meaning. A long face is someone's like, whoa. You can see that their face is long, whoa, so sad. So he had a long face would mean he was sad. but that's a different meaning. You could say that, but it changes the meaning of the situation. I also saw people say that the boss had a straight face or kept a straight face. A straight face means no feelings. Kind of like a poker face. A straight face or a poker face means you show no emotion. So no feelings. So it changes the meaning of the sentence and changes the feeling of the situation, right? So it depends what you're trying to show. Is he making a face or a stern face? He seems angry. Or is he making a straight face? He doesn't care. He's not happy. He's not sad. He's not angry. Or is he making a long face? Does he have a long face? He's sad about what's happening. So I think probably in this situation it would be an angry face or a stern face, right? Okay. And so usually when someone makes an expression with their face, they use their face to show a feeling. We'd say make a face. We use the word make for that. You could also use pull a face, but in America, we usually say make a face. Okay. And another way to use the word make a face would be sometimes kids will make a face at someone. And that doesn't mean it's mean or angry, but maybe they're making a silly face. So maybe a little kid makes a face at you. Okay? So making a face could be a silly face or an angry face. Okay? Yeah. And I think everybody had no problems with the during part of that. During the meeting. So in that time, during the meeting, the boss was making a face. Not happy. Okay? Next up, 当他看到 Bob 的那一瞬间，他突然觉得心动 ，doki doki. So this one, you can say, when she saw Bob, she suddenly felt her heart racing. Wow, Bob is so handsome. Even though he looks like a dog, he's so handsome. Oh my gosh. So suddenly felt her heart racing. And then you can say, when she saw Bob, she suddenly felt her heart beating. Boop, boop, boop. So to show that someone is excited by someone, they think they're beautiful or handsome or very attractive, you can say their heart is racing. Racing means your heart is beating really fast. So your heart beats, your heart is beating, or your heart is racing, woo, super fast. Okay? You could also say, when she saw Bob, she suddenly fell in love. Oh, okay? And all of this together, I would call love at first sight. You've probably heard that phrase before. Love at first sight. So she sees Bob and, oh my gosh, I love him. Okay? Now, in the sentence, I use the word when because keep it simple sometimes. Because when she saw Bob, because it's at that time. At the time she saw Bob. So when she saw Bob, she suddenly blah, 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 blah. You could use another word. You could say the moment she saw Bob, or the instant she saw Bob, the second she saw Bob. These are phrases we'll talk about later. But that would mean super fast, right? The moment she saw Bob, she felt her heart racing. Ooh, that's emphasizing that it's really, really fast, really sudden. I saw a few people use while and as for this one. So while she saw Bob, she felt her heart racing, or as she saw Bob. That doesn't work as well because that means usually as and while are for two things that are happening at the same time. When is better for this one because it's that thing happens and then after that, a little bit after that, her heart starts beating. While and as means two things happening at the same time. You could say, while she was looking at Bob, she felt her heart beating, or something like that. So two things happening at the same time. Okay? And then for the heart racing, she felt her heart racing. You could say, she suddenly fell in love. She suddenly felt attracted to Bob. Now, that's a little bit less strong. Feeling attracted to someone means you think they look good. But 心动 feels a little bit stronger than that. Like maybe oh my gosh, she has strong feelings for him. Attracted could just mean, oh, he's handsome. But maybe it's a little bit stronger. Her heart was racing. Oh, wow, doki doki. Okay? A few people use the word flipped. She flipped. Now, flipped, you don't want to use it by itself. It doesn't tell us enough what's going on. Flipped by itself, flipped means go crazy. She flipped. And that could be the same meaning. She flipped when she saw Bob, meaning she went crazy when she saw Bob because she really liked him. But flipped could mean in a bad way. She flipped out. She went crazy. Ah, it's him. So flipped by itself doesn't really tell us what's going on. So if you use flipped, you'd have to express more clearly that she has good feelings for Bob. Okay? I also saw she suddenly had feelings for him. That would be okay, but it's a little bit less sudden. Having feelings is just you have those feelings. It doesn't happen quickly. So using suddenly, we want something that happens quickly. Her heart starts beating. She falls in love. Okay? But to have feelings, can that go really quickly? Not really. That's something you have. Okay? I also saw she suddenly started having a crush. Okay? It's okay, but you could say she developed a crush for Bob. Okay? So a crush is something that develops, or you could say she started to have a crush for Bob. Okay? And then our last sentence is 整趟旅途中，我印象最深刻的是宏伟的建筑. Okay? So I would say this as, during my trip, the most unforgettable thing I saw was the magnificent architecture. Now, I changed the sentence around a little bit and didn't really follow the Chinese very closely, but this is probably what people would say first thought. The most unforgettable thing I saw was the magnificent architecture. So, during my trip, I think everybody got that part. So, during, which is the most important part, is everybody got it pretty well. We have my trip, or our trip, or the trip, and in that time. So this is the time period, and during the trip, so somewhere inside that time. During my trip, the most unforgettable thing I saw was the magnificent architecture. Now, unforgettable is what people will use in English to describe something that happens and you can't forget it. It makes you remember it. It's unforgettable, the most unforgettable thing. Okay? And the most unforgettable thing I saw was the magnificent architecture. So amazing buildings and the shape of the buildings. Architecture means the way they design the building. Okay? Now, then, if we want to follow the Chinese a little bit closely, we can use the word impression or the verb impressed. So you could say, during my trip, the thing that left the greatest impression was the magnificent architecture. Okay? Or you could say, the thing that impressed me the most was the incredible building, or the, again, magnificent architecture. Okay? So usually we will need the word thing that did something. So the most unforgettable thing, or the thing that left the greatest impression. So an impression means like the way it stuck in my brain is the impression of something. And the word that usually goes with impression is the greatest. So left the greatest impression. We don't use the word impression that often, but when we do, you usually use the verb left an impression. And if it's the biggest or the most, you'd say the greatest impression. Something left the greatest impression, okay? So the thing that left the greatest impression was the magnificent architecture. And then we can simplify that a little bit and use the verb impressed. The thing that impressed me the most was the incredible buildings. And I use magnificent and incredible. You could use other words that mean really, really great, awesome, amazing. Some of you use the word grand. Grand can mean amazing, magnificent, incredible, but we don't often use it that way. Grand often means really, really big, okay? Like the Grand Canyon. It's really, really big and amazing, but we don't use the word grand as an adjective very often, okay? It sounds a little bit old-fashioned. Also, during the trip. Usually when we're talking about traveling and going somewhere, we'd say during the trip. A few of you use the word journey, but journey sounds a little bit more formal. And yeah, we use the word trip more often to talk about traveling, maybe going on a little trip or going on vacation, okay? And then we'll move on to Lesson 6, Conversation 1, Part 3. And that part is talking about the word upon and the word on. Now, these were tricky because the Chinese is quite different than the English. And to be completely honest, the word upon is quite formal. So we don't use it that often. And so some of these were pretty tricky. If you didn't get very close to my answers, that's okay. Don't worry about it. This is another tool that you should know and you need to know, but using the word upon itself is not super common in speech. It's more common in writing. So it's pretty tricky. We will use the word on instead of upon when speaking. But again, there are other ways to say these that are more common. We would more often use words like when and while and things like once, which we'll talk about later. So these ones, if you had trouble with it, it's okay. Don't worry about it. These ones are tricky. And it's more written English. For spoken, we'll use simpler words and phrases. Okay, so the first sentence is 他一走进家门，马上把蛋糕夹在他脸上。Oh my gosh! So I would say this in English as, upon his arrival, I immediately smashed a cake in his face. So keeping it about him and me. I did it to him. So upon his arrival home, I immediately smashed a cake in his face. Okay? Another way you could say it is, on his arrival home, I immediately smashed a cake in his face. Okay? So, using the words upon or on, we usually follow it with a noun. And we can follow with a verb plus ing. But here, that doesn't really work that well. Why? Well, upon his arrival home, I smashed a cake in his face. So it's a different person doing different things. So if we're using upon for this, we need the he in there. Upon his arrival home. His arrival is still a noun, so you can use upon his arrival home. And then the second part, I did something. I smashed a cake in his face. So we need to use that one. here you can't use an ing because if you use ing, like upon entering the house or upon coming home, the second part has to be about him or he, okay? So that would make it a little bit trickier. If we want he followed by I, we have to use something like upon his arrival home, okay? Another way you could write it, simpler, using when, you could say, when he got home, I immediately smashed a cake in his face. So upon is a more formal way to write it. If you want to keep it simple, you can use when. And then one other way to write the sentence, using that ing, you could say, upon entering his house, he was smashed in the face with a cake. Now, this is something we haven't really learned before. It's called the passive voice. What is it? 被动式, where something happens to him. He was smashed in the face. You haven't really learned that, so if you didn't do that, that's okay. Here you can use ing because both parts are about him. Upon entering his house, he was smashed in the face with a cake. Okay? So, yeah, either upon coming home or upon entering his house, the same thing. Because there's no he there, then the second part needs to be about he. So, I saw a few people say things like upon he walked in. Well, after the word upon, we can't put a subject in a verb. We just want to put a noun, like his arrival, or a verb that acts like a noun, which is verb ing, called a gerund. So upon entering or upon arriving. Okay? So that one's kind of tricky. The second part was easy peasy, but the first part was also kind of tricky because these are formal ways of writing, using on or upon, okay? So using a phrase that is pretty common or common in stories, it's an idiom. I said, oh, sorry, I have to read the sentence first. 一过半夜12点，演唱会门票立刻卖光光。So, so fast. So, in English, I would say, on the stroke of midnight, the concert tickets immediately sold out. Or you could say, on turning 12 o'clock, the concert tickets sold out right away. Okay, the stroke of midnight. What does that mean? So midnight means 12 o'clock at night. And the stroke means on a clock, each time the clock moves, that's a stroke of the clock. The hands of the clock are moving. And so the stroke of midnight is when it goes tick and it changes to midnight. So on the stroke of midnight, the concert tickets immediately sold out. Okay? Or using a phrase that was in our lesson, we said on turning a certain age. So you could say on turning 12 o'clock, meaning the clocks turned to 12, the concert tickets sold out right away. So they sold out. They're sold and there's none left, right? Okay. So you could say upon the stroke of midnight or on the stroke of midnight. Again, on or upon needs to be followed by a noun or a verb with ing. So upon the stroke of midnight or upon turning 12 o'clock. And then the second part, the tickets sold out immediately. You could also say sold out at once. Okay? So just something that means really, really quickly. Okay. The next sentence, 黑夜降临，气温立刻降了20度. So, maybe you're in the desert and it suddenly gets dark and it gets cold. Oh my gosh. So that might happen in the desert or maybe in Alaska where it's all snowy, but the sun is really shining. Okay? So again, using upon or on is a little bit formal. And after the word, we need a noun or a verb plus ing that acts like a noun. So I would say upon the fall of night, the temperature dropped 20 degrees. Okay? So upon the fall of night. So when night falls. So we can describe that night falls, and that means the sky turns black. Okay? Upon the fall of night, the temperature dropped 20 degrees. Could also say on nightfall. Nightfall is a thing when it turns to night. Okay? Or you could say, keep it simple and say when night fell. So when night fell, the temperature dropped 20 degrees. Okay? So you could say upon the fall of night or upon the coming of night would be okay, but it's not a very common phrase. Or on nightfall. A few of you wrote, night is upon us. This is a way to be poetic and say it in a fancy way. Night is upon us, meaning night is here. Okay? I also saw someone say upon sunset. That's also good. That's like at the time that the sun goes down. Upon sunset, the temperature fell. And just like the night falls, we use the word fell for temperature too. Temperatures rise and fall. So the number goes down, meaning the temperature falls. So the temperature fell 20 degrees, or you could say by 20 degrees. Okay? And next up, our sentence is 女朋友一打开礼物，脸马上垮下来。Oh, this is not a good situation. It's like, wow, you got me a present? Oh. So, how can you say this? This is less formal than the other ones. The other ones were tricky. This one is the most straightforward. Everyone did a great job with this one. I would say, upon opening the gift, my girlfriend's face dropped. So, upon opening the gift, my girlfriend's face dropped. Dropped is just like fell. So you could also say, my girlfriend's face fell. Her face fell. Oh. It goes from up, being happy, and falls down to sad. Oh. So you could say upon opening the gift or on opening the gift. So after upon or on, we just want the verb plus ing, opening. Okay? I saw a few people say things like upon my girlfriend open. But again, after upon, we cannot put a subject in a verb. We just put a noun or a noun phrase. So upon opening the gift. Okay? And to show that she felt sad, you would say her face dropped. Or her face fell. So these two phrases, face dropped, face fell. Now, I saw a few other phrases that people use that some of them are close to the same meaning, and then some of them are a little bit off and change the meaning. So, one person said her face turned bad, or you could say her face turned sad, meaning it became unhappy. So her face turned bad, or her face turned sad. It's not a very common phrase, but you could say that. I also saw people use the word long face. A long face means she's sad. She had a long face. Okay? So she had a long face, or she got a long face. But if you're focusing on the action, we want her face drop. Okay, that's what happened. Long face is what she had. Okay? I also saw people use what we talked about before, make a face or pull a face. She pulled a face. Pulled a face means she thinks it's terrible or gross. Her face dropped means she's not happy. Oh. But if she pulled a face or made a face, maybe she thinks it's terrible. She went, oh, God. Okay? And then I also saw someone say she turned green. To turn green means she started to feel sick. If someone's face turns green, they're feeling sick. So You could say this, but it changes the meaning quite a bit. She opened the gift and turned green. Oh, that's disgusting. Maybe you gave her a gift that was so disgusting that she wants to throw it away. Ugh. Maybe something that's really ugly. So turning green means it makes her sick. And then I also saw someone say she got a horse face. Now, be careful with the word horse face. Horse face means her face looks like a horse's face. And to say someone has a horse face means they are very, very ugly. So if you say my girlfriend opened the gift and got a horse face, that means she turned super ugly. Like a long, ugly face is a horse face. So that doesn't really work here because you can't change and get a horse face. Unfortunately, some people are just born with a horse face. But don't say that to anyone. It's not nice. Okay? Okay. So, upon opening the gift, my girlfriend's face dropped. Oh, too bad. So sad. Okay. Now, next up is a little bit less tricky. Upon and on is tricky, but moving forward, our next thing is not so bad. Using once, as soon as, the moment, and the second, right? So this is where we have one thing happen and something happens right after it. There's one thing happen, then if you use once, it means something happens after it, but maybe not super fast. But if you use as soon as, it means really quickly. You were waiting for it to happen. And then if you use the moment or the second, it means it's super quickly right after, okay? So in these sentences, or this is lesson 6, conversation 1, part 4, okay? So as soon as, once, the moment, and the second. So first up is 请你收到讯息，马上回电给我. Okay, so maybe someone at work might say this to you. So I would say this in English as, please call me back as soon as you get the message. Okay, please call me back as soon as you get the message. Okay, so some people just said, please call me as soon as you get the message. But here we're saying, call me back. That means I call you, and then I want you to call me back, to return my call. So call me and call me back are very similar, but call me back means I'm calling you, I want you to call me back, okay? So this means using call me back suggests that I called you first. If you just say call me, maybe you could say this in person. Oh, please call me as soon as you get the message. Okay? And then you could also use the word once. Please call me once you get the message. But once just means you get the message and then call me. As soon as is a little bit faster. It seems like you're waiting for it. You want it to happen quick. Okay? And because you want it to happen quick, maybe you want it to happen really, really quick. So you could use the word the moment. The moment you get the message. Okay? Now, this could be the message or a text message or just a text. It depends on the situation, right? There are many different ways to say message in English. Or it could be an email, right? There are many different ways to talk about this. And I saw someone use the word refund. Refund is about money. So we don't want to use the word refund here. Refund means giving money back to someone, okay? And then our next sentence is 我一看到老板的来电，马上挂掉电话. So, oh, the moment I saw the call was from my boss, I hung up the phone. Ooh, yeah, you don't want to talk to your boss right now. Maybe you're on vacation. You go, oh God, the boss. Beep. So, the moment I saw the call was from my boss, I hung up the phone. Okay? I use the word the moment here because it suggests you're, geez, going really quickly. You're shocked and you hang up right away. Okay? So the moment suggests that it's super, super fast. You could also use the word the second for super fast. You could also use as soon as, but it's less quick as the moment. As soon as I saw the call was from my boss, I hung up the phone. But using the moment is even faster. Okay? I also saw some people say something like this. As soon as I saw my boss's phone number, I hung up the phone. That's okay too. I saw my boss's phone number. So you pull up your phone and see that phone number. Oh, geez. But a lot of phones don't show the number anymore. It will just say, Mr. blah, blah, blah. Mr. Kyle is calling. Ho, ho. And so phones don't often show the person's number anymore. Usually you see the contact's name, right? So, but both would be okay in this sentence. The moment I saw the call was from my boss, I hung up the phone. Okay? And the call was from my boss. I saw a few people say, the moment I saw the phone was from my boss. Now, the phone is the thing that you hold, but contacting someone using a phone is called a call. So we don't say, I got a phone, you say, I got a call. So the moment I saw the call, not the moment I saw the phone. Okay? The phone means the physical thing, the thing you touch. Okay? The second part, I hung up the phone. So this is past tense because it already happened. I hung up the phone. It could be like, where does this phrase come from? Well, hung up, to hang something means to like put it on something and hang it over it. So an old phone, you would actually hang the handle of the phone and hang it onto the telephone or hang it on the wall. And so we use the word hung up for that. But now we just push a button, right? So we still use hung up the phone. So you could say hung up, or I hung up the phone, or you could say I hung up on him. Okay? If you say hung up on him, it sounds like you answered the phone and then hung up. So that's a little bit worse, right? Okay. Next up, Bob 一上大学马上参加联谊. Okay? So Bob really wants to meet Mrs. Right. He wants to meet the girl of his dreams. So as soon as Bob got to college, he went group dating. Okay. So this idea of 联谊 is group dating. People get together, maybe a group of friends and a group of friends. They don't, maybe one boy knows one girl, and then they bring their friends, and they all go to an activity together. Maybe they go out to a big dinner, like 3 boys and 3 girls, or they go on a camping trip, or they go on an adventure. This is called group dating. Or maybe they all go bowling or something like that. Do something fun together. So group dating is kind of a new idea in America. It doesn't happen very often, but I think it's pretty common here in Taiwan. And from what I've read, it's also pretty common in Japan. Some people do group dating in America, but not too often. Yeah, you can do it, but it's not super, super common. Now, another thing, another way to say this, you could say, as soon as Bob got to college, he went to singles night. Singles night is an event where they will invite single people. Maybe it might be a party, or like at a bar they have cocktails and drinks. You could call it singles night. Okay? So for this sentence, I said as soon as, and that suggests it happened right away. As soon as Bob got to college. You could also use the word once. Once Bob got to college, he went to blah, blah, blah. And once sounds like he was waiting to get to college. But if you use as soon as, it shows that right away when he got there. Okay? So they're both useful. Once means he was waiting to get to college, but maybe not super quickly after he got there. as soon as suggests, boom, he really, really wants to and did it really quickly. Maybe the first weekend he went on this group dating trip. Okay? So in America, the phrases that are most common would be like group dating or singles night. Those two ideas are a little bit different, right? Now, some of you use the word singles mixer. Now, a singles night is the same as a singles mixer. It's where you take a bunch of single people, put them in a room, and mix them together. Like you talk to people you've never met before, other single people. But singles mixer is not a super common phrase, so people would usually use the word singles night. Like a bar might have singles night, where they invite lots of single people, okay? And then, the first part again, I said, as soon as Bob got to college. Again, the word college and university, if you really look at the words, they mean something a little bit different. But in America, people use the words college and university to mean the same thing. So if you say 大学 in Taiwan, in America, people would probably say college. Even when they're talking about university, Americans will use the word college. Oh, he's going to college. He went to college, okay? Or he got to college. Got to college, I use that because he arrived at college, okay? And we're focusing on that he's starting college as soon as he got to college, okay? So other people used other phrases, as soon as he went to college or as soon as he went to university. Those are okay. Or as soon as he entered college or university. That would be okay too. But I would use got to because it's focusing on that he's arriving there, okay? He maybe gets off the plane or gets off the bus and gets to the college. So we always can say get to a place, okay? Our next sentence is 一旦我考虑清楚，我会马上回复你. Okay, so I would say this as, once I think it over, I'll give you an answer. So again, once means one thing happens and then something happens after it. Once I think it over, I'll give you an answer. So I use the word once because we don't need to go really, really quickly. So once I think it over, like you could use this for many different situations. Let's say a company offers you a job. They say, hey, we really like you. We would like you to have this job. Here's the money we're offering you. And so you might say, okay, I'll think about it. Once I think it over, I will give you an answer. Okay? So it could be about something like that. Someone offers you something, and then you need to think about it first. Or maybe someone tells you, hey, I really like you. Do you want to go on a date with me? And you say, well, we work together, so it's a little bit awkward. I have to think about it. Once I think it over, I'll give you an answer. Okay? So something you need to think about. If you use the words as soon as or the moment, that means really quickly after you think it over. So that could work here, but I would use once because thinking it over, you don't suddenly have an answer and suddenly say, wow, I figured it out, okay? Once is just one, then the other. But as soon as or the moment would mean super fast, quickly after. Okay, I said once I think it over. You could also say once I think it out. So think it over, think it out. You could also say something like once I consider everything carefully. So take your time and consider everything, okay? I also saw once I consider it. You would need to describe how you consider it. Consider something means to just like imagine it. So consider something. But you'd have to consider it carefully, meaning take your time to think about it. So add a word to that. And then these are two phrases that came up, I think it was last week. Some people said think clearly, and think clearly means you're not thinking too much, or you're not worrying too much. And so we don't think clearly to make a decision. Think clearly means you're not having problems. Okay? So it's a little bit different. We want something like think it over, like think about a topic for a long time. Okay? And then this came up, I think, last week also, and someone said upon chewing it or chewing on it. Now, chewing on it, yes, is a phrase to mean think it over, think about it. But this is not a very common phrase, so I wouldn't use chewing it over. It's not something I hear very often, okay? There are idioms that people use day by day, but this is one that's not very common. So upon chewing it over, it's better to say thinking it over, okay? And then the second part, I'll give you an answer. You could also say, I'll reply to you, or I'll give you a reply. Any of those are fine. Or you could also keep it simple and say, I'll get back to you, okay? Once I think it over, I'll get back to you, meaning give you an answer, okay? Now, our last part is Lesson 6, Conversation 1, Part 5. Here is where we go over our conversation, the English version. Now, before we do that, did you notice how I showed the number 6? Now, this was a conversation in the office recently. How do people show the number 6 with their fingers? In Taiwan, people go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How do people in America show 6 with one hand? Well, we don't. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you do this in America, people will be like, what? What is that? Is that 2? So when people play baseball, they might do this for two outs or something like that. But in America, for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, not very easy, right? You have to use 2 hands. Just say the number, okay? So we have our conversation where you and Bob are talking about this apartment, and Bob is telling you, hey, slow down, easy does it. There are some problems with this place. There's a hole over there. The walls are lifeless. It looks like a hospital. This place is so boring. Why do you like this place so much? But you say, oh, that hole, great airflow, great air circulation. Oh, the walls are white. I can paint them when I move in. And then Bob touches a pipe, floods the whole apartment. Oh my God, the place is a disaster. And you say, hey, no problem. I can use it as an indoor pool. So we get to learn some words and phrases about a house. It's really common when you're looking for apartments to talk about things like this, airflow or air circulation. My apartment has no airflow, and it's kind of terrible. I love my apartment, but I wish it had better circulation. I wish the air moved better because it gets pretty hot in the summer. What about your place? Do you have good air circulation? Do you have good natural sunlight? What is it like in there? Okay, so is it lifeless inside, or is it colorful and full of life? Okay, I'd love to hear about what your houses are like. What are some good things about them? What are some bad things about them? Okay, now let's get to our homework and using some of the phrases we learned in this dialogue. Okay, first up is 这间房子的内部装潢很符合我的风格。Ooh, good, right? Ooh, you're looking at the place, you're inside, and you really like it. So you could say, wow, the interior design of this house is right up my alley. So here, because we're using interior, we're saying 内部装潢. I said the interior design of this house is right up my alley. So interior design is a common phrase to talk about what it looks like inside, like the paintings, the couch, the tables, the design on the inside of a building. We call it interior design. We don't usually change this phrase. You don't say inner design or some interior decoration. Interior design is a set phrase. If you want to use other words, you could change it up. You could say the decoration or the decorating inside this house is right up my alley. So that would be the decorations or decorating inside this house is what you could say for that. I saw several people use the inner atmosphere or the indoor atmosphere of this house. Now, using the word atmosphere is great, the atmosphere inside, but you don't need the word inner or indoor. You could just say the atmosphere in this house is right up my alley, okay? So the atmosphere in the house, okay? And then you could say the decorating, the decorations, all of those would be okay. Many different ways to say this. But if you want to use the word in, like the 内部 part, if you want to keep that, you should use interior design. If you throw away that interior part, you could say the decorations in the house, the atmosphere in the house. So all of these would be okay. Okay? And then to say something's perfect for you, you can say it's right up my alley. Right up my alley. Okay? Be careful, we don't change this phrase. I saw a few people say it's right on my alley. But right on my alley, yes, you could use that if you're talking about where you actually live. But if it's something you like, we always use the word up. It's right up my alley, okay? And then there are other ways to say this, of course. So you could say it fits my style, or it is really my style, or it suits me, which we learned a long time ago, okay? So it's right up my alley, it suits me, it's really my style, it's perfect for me, okay? Okay, it's just a great place. Wow, the style is perfect. What kind of style do you like? Do you like it very colorful and bright, or do you like it minimal? Is it just white and black? Okay. Now, so then you're in this house looking around, and then you move on to the next thing. You're imagining living there, and you say, 当我坐在客厅休息时，可以听到窗外的鸟啾啾叫. So, while I'm resting in the living room, I can listen to birds chirping outside the window. So, the first part, while I'm resting in the living room. We use while to show two things happening at the same time. Resting in the living room is one thing, and listening to birds at the same time. While I'm resting in the living room, I can listen to birds chirping outside the window. Okay? Now, the first part, while I'm resting in the living room. In the Chinese, it says sit and rest. But in English, you don't need to have both. It's a little bit extra to have both. So I think it's better if you just use one word, resting. Because, yeah, if you're resting, you're probably sitting, right? So while I'm resting in the living room, you don't rest standing up, do you? So it's probably sitting. But you could say both. You could say while I'm sitting, resting in the living room, or while I'm sitting and resting in the living room, or while I'm sitting in the living room having a rest, something like that. All of these would be okay, but you can simplify it and just say resting, okay? And then the second part, I can listen to birds chirping outside the window. So you could also say, I can hear birds chirping outside the window. Hear and listen are similar. Listen sounds like you're spending time doing it. You're actually focused on it, okay? And here, we want I can hear, or I can listen to, okay? And I saw a few people use I heard. That's past tense. That means it's finished. So we're not talking about one time you did it. We're imagining you could do it, okay? So because you're imagining, you could also say, I could listen to birds chirping, okay? I saw it could be heard birds chirping. Now, that's close, but you could change it around. Don't use it, you could say birds could be heard chirping if you want to make birds the subject, okay? And then I use the word chirping. Chirping describes the sound. They go cheep, cheep, cheep. Or you could say tweeting. The birds tweet, 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 tweet. But many of you use the word singing, and that's totally fine too. You could say the birds are singing outside the window. Birds are chirping, the birds are singing, okay? I kind of miss sitting in my mom and dad's house listening to the birds chirping. Oh, it's okay. I'll be fine. Living in the city is nice too, but living in the woods is nice too, okay? Next up. 一旦我存够头期款，我要来买这间房子。Once I save enough money for the down payment, I'll buy this house. Okay? So, the first part is once, because one thing happens and then the next thing happens. And you're waiting for it to happen. Oh, once I save enough money for the down payment, I'll buy this house. Just like before, you could use words like as soon as or the moment or the second, but that suggests really, really quickly. Like your money goes like tick, 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 tick. And then when it hits that number that you want, that moment, or super fast, you go running back and buying the house. But you're probably not going to run back like that. So once is a little bit better. You're waiting for it to happen, but you're not going to go super fast. So once I save enough for the down payment, I'll buy this house. Okay. The first part is once I save enough for the down payment. You could say save enough money, but we know a down payment is money, so you don't need the word money. Now, down payment is you're putting money down on the table. You're giving them money, and that's the beginning of buying a house. You give them some money first, and then later you pay what's called a mortgage. You pay every month for the house. And so you save money for a down payment. A down payment is a thing. It's a payment. And you make a payment. So we don't save a payment, we make a payment. So in this sentence, you should say save money for the down payment. Okay? Save enough money to make the down payment. Something like that. Because down payment always goes with the word make if you want to use a verb for it. So save money for the down payment. So we do not say save enough down payment. That doesn't work. You save enough for a down payment. I also saw once I have enough down payment. We would say have enough money for the down payment. Okay? So you save money for that payment because the payment means giving the money to someone. You make a payment. Okay? It's a little bit tricky, but that's why we say it that way. Okay? And then the second part, I will buy this house. Or you could say, because you're in the house, you could say, I'll come buy this house, or I'll come back and buy this house. Okay? So once I've saved enough for the down payment, I'll buy this house. Oh, it's so lovely. The interior design is right up my alley. And then while I'm resting in the living room, I can listen to the birds chirping outside the window. Chirp, chirp, chirp. And once I save enough money for the down payment, I'll buy this house. Oh, sounds so nice. But this time, hopefully, in this situation, you're actually buying a beautiful, nice house. You're not looking too much on the bright side. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to ignore the bad things and be positive to a fault, right? You don't want to be over optimistic to a fault. Sometimes it's okay to notice the bad things, to be careful about things, right? Okay, so that's all of our homework here. Our story was kind of fun, seeing this apartment with some problems, but it's okay, no problem. Have some fun with it. Wow, look, a rat with a cockroach riding on the back. Whoa, it's so full of life. If you saw that, how would you react? Would you be happy and go, wow, it's full of life? It would be amazing to see that. Holy crap, the cockroach is riding a rat. That's amazing. But I wouldn't be happy about it for sure. I'd probably run away and freak out. Well, maybe you freak out about the bad things instead of just being positive all the time. So next week, we're going to look at what would happen if you are negative and you freak out about things. Maybe things scare you and you're going, oh God, this is bad, that's bad. So you have this apartment and maybe the apartment is right up your alley and you like it and it's good, it's a good fit for you, but maybe you're being too negative and you're focusing on all the problems and how you don't like it. Oh, geez, this thing seems good to some people, but for you, I don't like it. So in our next lesson, we'll take a look at our negative personality and how do they react to this apartment? Do they like that it's sunny? Do they like that there's a loft? What happens? So we'll see next week with our second conversation. Lesson 6, conversation 2. Okay? So we'll end our stream here. I hope you guys understood what was going on with the questions. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a message, leave a comment in our stream or in our group for our class. I would love to see people interacting more. If I send a message about these streams, feel free to comment and say what you think about the story. Oh, the story is too funny or too crazy or too stupid. I want to hear your feedback, okay? So let me know if you have any questions, and I'll stick around. I'll hang out for a few more minutes. If you're free, send a message to Kyle Moai, and we can chat one-on-one for a few minutes. I'll stick around for a little bit. If you're free, send me a message. Don't be shy. I'll be waiting, okay? And I'll see you guys next week. Have a good weekend and study hard, okay? And have a good night and happy Friday.